Mesachta Zevachim Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, but we're starting from Yud Aleph Amud Beis, from the Gemara, like 12 lines in the bottom. In the Mishnah, we learned that a Pesach that was slaughtered in the morning of the 14th of Nisan, but not for the sake of a Pesach, Rabbi Yeshua was machsherit, as if it was slaughtered on the 13th, as if it was not on the day, on the 14th, as if it was on the 13th day, which has a din like a shlamim. But B'Mzeda said this is puzzle. It's as if it was slaughtered bein habayim on the 14th day, and therefore it's and we're soon going to learn about that. Rabbi Lezer holds that the whole day, even from the morning, could be makabit. So if it was shalei l'shma, that's why he says it's puzzle. Rabbi Lezer had paskin that it's kosher to bring a Pesach in the morning. You're allowed to slaughter the Pesach in the morning of the 14th, even before Chatzos Lishmai, if it's for the sake of a common Pesach. Why? Because according to Rabbi Lezer, the whole day is the Zman for the carbon Pesach, and therefore he held that if it was Shlei Lishma, any time from the morning, it's going to be puzzle. If he says it's the whole day is the Zman for Shechting carbon Pesach, what's the kavanah of B'Mzeda when he says the Pesach is ki'ilu? It's as if it was slaughtered bein habayim. According to Rebbe Lezer, it comes out that the B'Mzeda holds that the morning itself has a thing like bein habayim, not ki'ilu. I'm sorry, I did Rabbi Yeshua ki'ilu. Since Rabbi Yeshua used the lashon ki'ilu when he said that a Pesach is nishat v'shachris, it says ki'ilu nishchat b'shleisha. So since the Rabbi Yeshua used the lashon ki'ilu to being machsherit when it was shlei l'shma, it's as if it was the 13th day, but he used the lashon ki'ilu. Therefore, nami ki'ilu. That's why B'Mzeda also used the lashon ki'ilu. In fact, you might if so, according to B'Mzeda, that even in the morning of Abbas B'Nisan is this man akrav Pesach ad mifli b'shlei l'shmai. Instead of arguing B'Mzeda with Rabbi Yeshua, arguing by a Pesach that was slaughtered in the morning shlei l'shmai, whether it's kosher like a shlamim or pasal gamni liflagu b'lishmai. They should have argued by a Pesach that was slaughtered lishma. That Rabbi Yeshua says the Pesach is pasal since it's not this man. B'Mzeda says that the Pesach is kosher because even in the morning it's considered the Zman for Kavan Pesach. And the Gemara, if they would have argued that a Begeit Pesach that was slaughtered l'shem Pesach in the morning of Abba Asa, Avamina would have said, Dafke here Rabbi Yeshua pasels and B'Mzeda's Masha Avol Shalei Lishmai, but in a Pesach that was Shanishchat in time in that time, but it was done Shalei Lishma. Maybe Rabbi Yeshua B'Mzeda that Rabbi Yeshua will be made it. B'Mzeda that will be puzzle Kidim Pesach Hanishcha B'Zman Shalei Lishma, even though Shachris is not the Zman Aroi L'Akrav Pesach. Why? Since part of that day of the 14th day was the royal for Shchitas Pesach, so therefore I would say that it will be possible according to Rabbi Yeshua if it was Shlei L'Shma. Kamash Malon. In order not to make that mistake, the Tana came to teach us that according to Rabbi Yeshua, if it was in the morning of the 14th of Nisan, it has a din like the rest of the year, and the Pesach that's slaughtered Shlei L'Shma is going to be kosher, and it's going to have a din like a shlamim. You just said that according to B'Mzeda, the morning is part of the chiyuv of Kavan Pesach. Like see, but it says in the Torah that the Zman of Pesach is bein habayim, which is mashma only from Yiftach Chatzos till Shkia. So how could B'Mzeda say even the morning is the Zman of Pesach? And you want about answered bein shnei aravim. It means between the two nights, meaning Alois HaShacha in the morning. That's considered one night. And then before Shkiyas HaCham is another night. So that's the Zman of HaKav Pesach, from Alois HaShacha till Shkiyas HaCham. In fact, the Gemara, so by Tamid, But it says when you bring the Talmud, the second Talmud of every day, the Chsib Bey over there by the second Talmud, it says Beis Hakev Sasheni Tasa Bein Harabayim. Are you going to say that the second Talmud is mutter to be makiv the whole day, like you're saying the Zman of the Pesach is between the two Arabayims? That means between Alis Hashach of the previous day and the Shkin Sachaba of the next day, meaning that the whole day of Abbas is going to be mutter. For the Pesach, you're going to say the same thing by the Keves Hasheni where it says Ben Abayim. We know it's not so. Since it says beferish in the pasuk about the first keves, it should be done in the morning. Meklal the Ben Abayim. So when it says Babeka means literally in the morning, so Ben Abayim means literally Ben Abayim Mamish means in the evening. In fact, you might Ema Chad Babeka say one is in the morning and the first one, and either you can learn Ben Abayim means Kol Yom the whole day. What stops you from saying that pshat? Because it says beferish in the pasuk. One kevis in the baker, and if you're going to say that the second kevis can be done the whole day, so you have two kvass in the morning, and that the Torah says beferish echad. In fact, you want to notice the chsib ben habayim. By the benayda that they lit in the Beis Hamikdash also says ben habayim between the two evenings of halas arnas anes ben habayim. Are you going to say that the whole day is kasha for that laka because it's between the two nights, between the alis hashacha and the shkia of the next day, that whole zman of the day is mutter for adlak sanes? We know it's not so. So if you want a shiny hustle over there, it's different by the adlak sanes. The sieve, it says by the adlak sanes yarich oisei aram me'erev ve'ad boiker. But Tanya, we learned in the Brayz me'erev ve'ad boiker. The pasuk is coming to teach you 10 law give oil in the midnight. I mean, there's enough of oil that it should be lit from the evening till the morning. So it can only be from the evening till the morning. Another pshat, what do we learn out to teach us there's no aveda of the day that's going to be kosher to do if that Adlak Sanedis. Adlak Sanedis was the last aveda of the day. That's it. So from this passage that says that the Zman Adlak was Samach Le'erev, not in the Beika, and it was the last aveda of the day, so we know it has to be in the evening, the whole night, till the morning, and it cannot be the day. Because we learn out that the last aveda was done was not Adlak Sanedis. All the other kabbanis had to be done before it. Okay. Sagt die Mara Keteda is the Chsib Bein Abayim, but again, to the Keteda it says Bein Abayim Yaktarana. So how can now the Kuli Yemim Kasha over there we're going to say it means this man is the whole day? We know that this man after the Haktaras Hakteris Hashniya is only in the afternoon dafka. I never heard of anybody arguing. It says you want a shiny Ketedis. Ketedis is different because the East Kishla Natives it's compared to the natives that it's Mamokish to the Adlak Natives. That just like by that Adlak Sanedis, it says only from from Bein Abayim till the Erbat Beikes, so two, and not the whole day. So two, the Ketedis is the same. Where do we see that? Because it says V'halayis es aneires and the Bein Abayim, and then it says Yakterana. So you have Ketedis compared to it. Okay, so Gemara Hasanami there by Pesach Sir Sham Tizbach. As a Pesach ba'erev, it says beferish ba'erev. It means only in the evening. So how could you say that the whole day is the zman if it says ba'erev? It says you want that ba'erev. That ba'erev is coming to teach you a different limud. The Tanya that it says we learned in the Brayz yuchadav shenem by ba'erev ubein habayim ledav sheloi never by ela bein habayim bavad. The one that has both mentions, Erev and Bein Habayim, which is Pesach, the Korban Pesach, which says both, should be brought later after than the one that says only Bein Habayim. That's the Tam Shel Bein Habayim. So the pasuk is come to tell you the whole day is right for the Korban Pesach. But if the Korban Pesach comes towards the evening, so then which one should be brought. So he says he's coming to tell you that the Zman HaPesach is really all day, but Be'erev is come to tell you that if it came to be that the Hakavos HaPesach, he was going to be Makiv in the afternoon, then he has to be Makiv it after the Tomid, not before it. In fact, you might meet the Ilu Shach Le Mitzafra, Ahamret Zimnehu, V'chimat Ben Habayim Amen Yochadava. Is there such a thing that something that the Zman is all day? And another item, the Zman is only by night. That the one from the night should come before the one that's the day. Like over here, you say the Pesach starts already from the morning. But when it comes to, if he happened to have to be Makar in the afternoon, then you say the Talmud, which is only in the evening, should come before the Pesach. Where do we find such a thing? Says, you want to hear? Yeah, we do. The Rabbi Yochanan said, the halacha is like the one that says, if somebody had Musaf and Mincha, that the Zman Tfilas Mincha came in the same time as Musaf, meaning he didn't have Musaf. Musaf is already, the Zman of Musaf is before the Mincha, but he didn't have Musaf yet, and he waited till the Zman of Mincha. So even though Musaf starts earlier, but he didn't daven Musaf yet, and now is the time of Mincha also. So we find that the Mincha, which is the later Zman than Musafim, comes before the Musafim, which the Zman starts earlier. So we do find such a thing, that something, item that's its Zman is later should come before Zman, but before an item that its Zman starts earlier. What do we need the Bein Habayim that says by the Keteiros and Nedas? Since we already learned out from other psukim that the Zman HaKeteiros and the Hatlokas Nedas is Dafke Achatz Harayim from this that it says Me'aravat Beika, and we also compared Keteiros to Nedas. So the Bein Habayim is extra. What do we need it for? Right, then even more so, in fact, you want to hate Rabbi Tachas ben Mesedu the Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi said for Ben Mesedu to the words of Rabbi Yeshua that you're saying that one who shachs a Pesach be'abas b'shachris, it's as if he slaughtered the Shleshasa. Lai, you don't say so. You don't say so. Because if you say that a Pesach is kosher, that a Pesach is going to be kosher on the 13th day, because there's not even a part of the day that's roi for it to be makav Pesach on the 13th day. But say, but again, that you have part of the day, which is Achatz Harayim, which is roi for Hakavos Pesach. So Rabbi, in response, meaning in explaining by Meseder, in response to the words of Rabbi Yeshua, saying that it really is kosher all day, and it will be possible Shalei Lishma on the morning of the 14th. Why does he differentiate it from the words of Rabbi Yeshua? He says it's considered the 13th, because he says the 13th. You don't even have a part of the day, which is right, to be Makar as a Korban Pesach. But the morning of the 14th, the part of the day is Roi for the Korban Pesach, meaning Achatz Harayim. So therefore, we'll say, even from the beginning of the day, it should have a din. If it was Shlei Lishma, it will be possible. Now, Isa, and if you're going to say, according to the words of Rabbi Yeshua, that Ben Seder holds really the whole day of the 14th is Kosher L'Shchitzas HaPesach, why did he use in his rebuttal that Ba'aba'asa Miktsasei Ra'ui, that on the 14th day, since Miktsasei is Ra'ui, since part of the day is Ra'ui, that's why the morning, if he had in mind Shalei Lishma, it's going to be puzzle. Why did he use the Lashon Miktsasei? Kulei Ra'yu. According to the words of Rabbi Yeshua, he says that Ben Seder really holds the whole day is Ra'ui. So why did he use Lashon in his response? Miktsasei. Elam Rabbi Yochanan Pesach you Ben Seder ben Pesach. Only Rabbi Yochanan says that Ben Seder Pasel the Korban Pesach Shchata B'Habas Shachris that was slaughtered in the morning of the 14th Ben Lishmai Ben Shalei Lishmai. What he had in mind for the sake of the Korban Pesach, because the Zman of the Korban Pesach is only in the afternoon, not in the morning. And even if he had in mind for a Korban Shlamim, since part of the day Roi is fit for the Shchitas Pesach, that's why he considered the whole day as its man, Benegayah, that the Kabbanis of a Korban of Pesach on the 14th day cannot be sacrificed as a shlamim, since part of that day is fit to be makna Korban Pesach. Megad about Rabbi Avo was wondering in Cain, if according to the Bemseya, that a Korban Pesach in the 14th in the morning is not ready to be slaughtered at all, for the sake of a Korban Pesach, or even for a shlamim. So Pesach kosher Bemseya heich mashkachas lo. How could you find a Korban Pesach that should be kosher? If he designated the Korban in the morning of the 14th, in the Modachim, this Korban was a Dachim Yitchilase, because from the time that he designated it for a Korban Pesach, it wasn't fit for it to be Makavit. And the Shita of Rabbi Yechanan is that a Korban that was pushed off from being able to sacrifice at that time, because at that time he couldn't be Makavit in the morning, he can no more use it later. And if you're going to say he separated the Korban on the 13th, which was Roi for a Korban Shlamim, neither was Roi, but on the 14th day, it became possible, because you can't even be Makavi as a Shlamim in the morning of the 14th. And if it's Nida Benitcha, it can never be brought back on the Mizbeach ever again. So how could you find that a Korban Pesach should be kosher? It says the even of this Pesach kosher, according to Bam Seder, is that he designated it, this behema, after Chatzos on the 14th of Nisan. Abaye says you can even say the Korban Pesach is kosher, according to Bam Seder, even if he designated in the morning of the 14th. Nevertheless, the Korban is not a dichei mechusas man lebay bayayim. We don't consider it, since it's missing a couple of hours till the afternoon, that will disqualify the Korban. No, we don't count that as a disqualification because of a couple of hours. That the first couple of hours that it's not yet ready to be sacrificed. He says that's not counted, and it could be used as a Korban for the afternoon. Even if he designated the Korban from the night before, the night going to the 14th. Nevertheless, it won't be considered as a dichli, because Laila in Mechusas Man, the night going to the 14th is not considered as missing time and a disqualified time for the Korban. Even though the Laila, the night is not the Zman HaKava, nevertheless, since the night is considered the beginning of the next day, therefore, the Korban is not considered as a dichli. The Tanur Rabbi Yishmael, the Beit Rabbi Yishmael. It was learned in the Braisa from the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yishmael. When it gave to Mais Behema, even though the Vlad of Behema, we know the halacha is you have to wait till 8 days from the newborn animals. You have and when you have 10 animals, the halacha is that you bring them into a pen and then you count them, and the 10th one you hit with a red dye, and that's used as Maisa. But you don't do it till the 8th day. Nevertheless, Lel Shmini Nichnas Ledilis Aseh. He says, but at the night going to the 8th, you can bring it into the pen to be Gemaiset. Kidarabi Aftariki. The Rabbi Aftariki Rabbi. Rabbi Aftariki is the contradiction between the Psukim. See, it says, when again to the Behema being puzzled to sacrifice, to use as a sacrifice in the first 7 days. It says, well, Yeshivas Yamim Tachas Imai, that the 7 days it should be by the mother. That means that even till the 8th day, Halayla, but if it's the night before going to the 8th, Chazi, it's only 7 days. But the night going to the 8th, it is right to use as a Maisa, a Korban Maisa. Uksi, even the Hamshah the Pasuk says, it says only for the 8th day, the Vlad is road to be used as a Korban Halayla, but the night before is not. Hakit said, how do we answer this contradiction? So the Gemara Laila Likdusha, from the night going to the 8th, the vlad is fit to be designated as a carbon maisa, even though the night is not roy lakrava. The yoyin lahatzah, and the 8th day is roy to be put on the mizbeach, meaning to be makavit, even though the behemoth wasn't roy to be sacrificed till the 8th day, but you could be makdash it the night before. Should we say that Rabbi Yechon holds that even before the shechita, even while the animal is alive, there is a din of dichui? So that's what it seems like. So do we find such a shita that Rabbi Yechon holds even Malachayim there's a din of dichui? Amalei, Rabbi Abba said, yes, that's the shita of Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon behemoth shall shnei shutvim. A behemoth that belonged to two partners. Hikdish, one partner was Magdish Chetzai, his half to Hagdish. And then he bought this Chetzai, he bought the second half from his friend the Hikdisha, and then he was Magdish the second Hikdisha, and he was Magdish second half. Kedusha, the whole thing has the Kedusha of a carbon now. It cannot be sacrificed. Why? Because it was there was at one part in time of this carbon. There was a part in the carbon that it was pushed off from being able to be sacrificed when he only owned half and he was makdash half, and a half a carbon is not really cut. So since this half a carbon that he designated for hagdish was already pushed off because a half a carbon cannot be brought as a hagdish, even though later on he buys the rest of the behemah and it's l'cheda fit, nevertheless it's dichui. And if he made an exchange with a behemah chulam with this behemah before he redeemed the second half, this behemah tmuras akayitzba, this animal that he exchanged has the same problem that it's a dichui because it's considered only a half animal that was being mugdish to the mizbeah, which you cannot be makiv, so it's dichui. So the kedusha of even the second animal is dichui melikar. So ushmami not las, and from this hayrav Rabbi Yechon that behemoth is not roy to be used as a carbon, even if he redeemed all of it and he was makdash all of it. We can learn out 3 dinim. Shmami not first of all balachayim nitchim, that is the din of dichui even by a live animal, even before it's slaughtered, because like we saw. The animal was alive. He was magdash half the animal, and he couldn't be put it on the mizbeach. Then he bought off this. He redeemed the second half. We say since it was nitcha, even though the animal was never slaughtered. And we see dachi meikara right at the beginning of the kedusha. Not that it was first fit and then it was nitcha. Here is even right at the beginning. It was never fit. It was a half animal that he wanted to be makdish. And it was nitcha right meikara, so we say it's nitcha me'elam. Shmamina that yesh dich v'damin, that there's a din of dichui v'damin, because when he was makdish the first half of the behemah, there was no kedusha in the guf because half was still chulin. So you see that there's dichui even in the worth of the animal because the whole animal wasn't shaykh, it wasn't his, only the worth of half the animal. And there was a dichui on the worth of the half of the animal, not the goof of the animal. So you see, there's dichui b'damim. If somebody ate chayla b'shoygeg, b'hifnish karton, and he separated our chatos for eating chaylev, and before he sacrificed heimadas, he became a mummer. He rebelled against the whole Yiddishkeit. And a mummer, the whole carbon, he cannot bring a carbon, so it was now nitcha. The chazabay, and then he did shuva from being a mumma. We say since his carbon was already pushed away from being able to be sacrificed because he was a mumma, in middle yidach, it gets pushed off forever. We also learned if he ate carbon and he separated a carbon to be mechaper on his chet that he ate a carbon. But before being makaber, he became crazy, and a shaita has no das, so now it became nitcha, And then because of the Shtafim, then he became normal. So we say, Hevel Nidcha, since it was pushed off when he was a Shaita, Yidacha, even though now he's normal, it gets pushed off forever. Utzichem, we need both Heirais. The Ashmin and Kamaisa, if the Rabbi Yechon only would have told us the case of the Mumma, and where he retracted and he did Shuvah, Mishum Dehu Dachin Nafshei Biyadayim, I'll say he himself, with his hands, meaning knowingly, he became a mumma, and he was matcha the korban from being able to be sacrificed b'yadayim. He did it b'yadayim. So then I'll say it's nitra. But hacham over here, here it happened on its own because he became crazy. So I'll say it's kiyashudami. I'll say it's like a person who fell asleep, and just like a korban of a person doesn't get pushed off through sleeping if he slept, so too this korban, because he became crazy for a little while, and now he's normal, we should say it's like he slept, and it should be good. That's kamashma. No, it's considered as nitra. And if the Rabbi Yechon would have only taught us the case of the korban shenishtat, that he became crazy in middle, mishum dein b'yadei, there I'll say, hey, the shaita has no capability of lachzer making himself become normal. It's not totally in him. But here by the Baal Karban, by the Mumma, the Yesh b'yadei lachzer, he could retract and he could do tshuva. So I would have said, hey, there it's not a real dichui, because he's b'yadei, he's able to do tshuva right away. And so I would have thought it's not a dichui. That's why we needed it to tell you even there it's going to be considered as nitcha. If he was carbon, he separated a carbon to be mechap on his head, and before he was able to be mak the chatas, Bezin came in and said, it's mutter, what you ate, you don't have to bring a carbon. So now it's nitcha. Then and then Bezin retracted from it and said, no, it was a sin, that chayla was also, what's the deal? Is it a dicho or not? When Rabbi Yechon started to dash about the concept of dicho, he started off with this example with Bezdin, this case that Bezdin was mated the chayla. So it's pashut that it's a real dicho. In fact, one of my time. Now, why did they feel that this case of dicho is better than the other two cases that we brought down, like when he was a shaita or mumma? Says Gemara Hasam by the mumma and the shaita gabe itchi. There was pushed off because of the person. Either he was a mumma or a shaita, but the carbon la itchi. The carbon was never pushed off. The carbon chatas was there as a forgiveness for eating chaylev. It's still there. But in the case of Bezdin, when they were mated the chaylev, carbon nami itchi, they disqualified the carbon itself. They pushed off that the carbon is not even is not a carbon, because once Bezdin is mater the chaylev, nobody's mechuy to bring a carbon for this chet. So therefore, it's the hefzer itself, the carbon itself, is not a carbon. He made it his carbon. That's why they brought this case, because this is the strongest case. So the Shimon said, "Look, on the day that they removed Rabbi Gamil and the Sanhedrin removed Rabbi Gamil and they put in Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah as the Nasi, and they passed in that day that all Zevachim that were eaten that was Yishacht and Shalei Lishma are kosher, but the Bailam still have to bring the Choiv again, except for Pesach and Achatas, that's going to be Pasal Agamri. In fact, what do we have to? For what purpose did the Mishnah learn Zakim v'Lashon Yachid and not Zakim v'Lashon Rab? They all stood there with one opinion. All the Chachamim were sitting together as one. That's why he used the Lashon Zakim Lashon Yachid to be Meramis. They all had one opinion, Ki Ish Echad, and that's why they used Lashon Yachid. Ben Azai didn't add a psul more than the Tanakama, Ela Oila, only in the case of Oila, because Oila is not Necholin. And the only ones, okay, and so he added Oila. Amr Avuna, my time in the Bedazai. What's the reason of Bedazai? Because Oila hu isheich nechech lashem. It says who. The word who is mashma dafka. He mukravs lishma. He mukravs lishma. Only if it's a sacrifice lishma, it's ksheda. But if it was shalei lishma, then who is coming to tell you? If he was makul the Oila shalei lishma, it's psula. But Gemara Hashanamik sibhu. But Asham also says who. So say the same limud. Only by Asham is only if it's lishma it's kosher, but if it's shalei lishma it should be possible, and we know it's not so. And the Gemara who that says by Asham lachaktar seimurim hudichsiv is written after the burning of the emurim, and it doesn't make sense that the akdar seimurim that was done shalei lishma is going to passel the Asham, because a carbon is kosher even if he wasn't maked the emurim. So Asham who has to be teaching us a different dasha. This word who, which is said by Oila, Rav Huna explains that who comes to teach us that Oila hamakram shalei dushman psula lach aktar say murim degudiksiv. That who is also written after the aktar say murim, just like by Asham. And today who ksivi. There's two who's that's written by Oila. It says Oila who once, and then in the pasuk that Rav Huna brought, Viktarta as kol ha'ayla mizbeich Oila who la'Hashem. So since we have twice who, and we use the rule that if it's not, you cannot use it for the inyan that for what it's being written for. So then you dashen it for a place where it's not written, which is for that if it's shalei lishma, it's going to be possible. By Yosham we find it also says twice who. We find one that's brought in by Yikah Zion, Perek Zion, Pasuk Hey, and another one before Perek Hey Pasuk Yotes. It says Ashma Hu, Ashma Hashem. So say the same thing. The second who is coming to tell you Emeina Inyan. Lamasha Kasaba use it for what it's not written for to tell us that if it's shalei lishma it's going to be possible. Says Gemara Elabanazeh mikavachema ma'isila. Banazeh dashens with a kavachema that a oila is going to be possible if it's shalei lishma. How? Ma chatas sheina kolo ma chatas, which is not completely burnt, and chatas shalei lishma. If it was shalei lishma, it's going to be psula. Oila shikalo oila that's completely burned, which is much more chamor, like kol shekain. For sure should be the din that if he shot the shalei lishma, it's going to be possible. Ma lechatas v'yimar ma lechatas. The chatas has a tzad chomesh and kein chaperes. If it gives on sins, mashen ken oila doesn't. So you have a tzad chomer and chatas. That's why shalei lishma is going to be possible. So the Gemara Pesach Echiyah that the Pesach, which doesn't have the tchuna of kapara, and it's not a chapalechet. Nevertheless, the Torah passed it if it was a sacrifice shalei lishma. So you don't see that the kapara is instrument or element to say that it should be pasul shalei lishma. I'll tell you why Pesach is going to be pasul lishma. Shekain is mani kavod. It has a tzad chomer because the Torah was marked that it should be sacrificed at a specific time on the 14th, achatzarayim till the shkiyah. And Mashen Kein is all the time. So that's why by Pesach I'll say if it's shalei lishma it's going to be possible. Says the chatas will prove that the zman, the specific time, is not a reason to say shalei lishma. It should be possible because chatas it doesn't have any specific time. It's done all year. Chazadin, and we go back and forth. Later later the midas of chatos is not like Pesach because it's all year round. Versus Pesach is only specific time. Like midas Pesach, midas chatos. Pesach is not like chatos because a chatos forgives and a Pesach doesn't. So you see, between the two, we could hatzad Hashem shebehem. The side that they both have in common is shem kadashim, they're kachim. Shchat and shleishma, and if it was a slaughter shalei lishma, it's going to be possible. Afani avi. So too, I can bring in oila. Shigami kadashim. That's what it has in common with all the other ones. And the tchuna of a specific time or kaparas is not negay because the Pesach and Chatas cancel each other reasons out. The only thing that they have in common that it's kachim. Ushchat shleilish maz psula. So too by Eila. In fact, you have a by Chatas and Pesach is more stringent than Eila. Sheken yesh beim tzad kares. By a Pesach, you don't bring Yichayim kares. By Chatas, it's brought on amazed. If somebody was amazed on the sin, the only b'sheg you bring a chatas, so they have in common kares versus Eila doesn't. And the Gemara Benazai tzad kares leparich. Benazai says that tzad kares you can't ask. It's not a tzad hashava because but there's a big difference between Pesach and chatas. Pesach, the punishment of kares, is on a meniyas amaisa that he didn't bring the carbon. Chatas is on doing a maisa. He's not on holding back. No, he's coming to be mechaber on something that he did a maisa, which there's a isa kares if he doesn't amazing. So it's not a tzad hashav. It's bringing a chatas for two different. They're bringing the come for two different reasons. The kares is coming from different field, from different directions. So it's not tzad hashav. So Kurt Masham, we should also learn about tzad hashav because if you remember, the Gemara before slugged up that you can't learn out Asham from Pesach and Chatos because they have a tzad kares. But now that you say the tzad kares is not considered as a tzad hashava to show that it has a chumrah over Asham, so why shouldn't we learn with a tzad hashava Asham too? And the Gemara Asham paruch ben Azay slugs up Asham from Pesach and Chatos. Mala tzad hashava shabem sheken yeshna betzibur kiviyachid, because we find that by Chatas and Pesach you find that side tzibur. Mashayin kein Asham is only by a yachid, not by a tzibur. Chatas you find by Kabbalah Hamisofim of Rashi Chadashim and Mayadim, which includes Chatas, and Pesach. We know it could be a carbon that's brought through Yechidim and is also through a group. Versus Asham could only be there's no tzibur at all. By saying, if you want, I can answer you. Tzad kares namita parich. Really, Ben Azai does ask that Chatas and Pesach have a side of kares they have in common versus Ashim doesn't. Ben Azai, but again, to Eila, why, if it doesn't have the punishment of kares, why, if it's shlei lishma, is it going to be pasuk? Because that's how Allah Sinai. Avahad the coming of Huna Kavachayma, and this that Avhuna did bring a kavachayma, even though be'emes it's halach l'meish Sinai. Lo ya'amar Avuna didn't say that only to sharpen the heads of the talmidim.